Okay, this is Holmes here, and first of all, I want to thank you, Dylan, for that kind introduction, and thank you, Mayor Deaver, for allowing me to serve on this working team. The name of my team again is Business and Individual Financial Recovery, and but before I get started, I am homeschooling my kid here today, homeschooling with an L in there, homeschool, and he saw me over here, he wanted to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's keeping their social distance, and wishing everybody a speedy recovery. So before I get started, I'd get my 8-year-old wishes out of the way. But the short presentation that Sarah and I will have here today covers the work and the goals of our team, the team members, what we're hearing from the industry in the context of business recovery, our outreach today. Again, we've only been going for about less than 2 weeks. And then next steps. If you can go to the next slide, Esmeralda, or whoever's running the slideshow. Mm-hmm. Great. But again, we'll keep it. We have a few slides here in the presentation today. The good thing about this group is that we're not reinventing the wheel in a lot of cases here. We've got a great infrastructure of business initiators here in the city of Waco. So the outreach and the service that these guys already provide within their existing initiatives. The chambers that we have in Centex, African American Chamber, Centex, the Hispanic Chamber, Greater Waco Chamber, Startup Waco, and the City of Waco, all kind of working together. We already have that infrastructure in place, which is really important. We never actually all worked together on an initiative. And as I told somebody, I liked everybody working together. I'm sorry that it's taken this crisis to get us all on the same page on things. But it's the collaborative effort and the collegial effort is just amazing. The business communications, again, we're working together both externally and internally to figure out best practices, creating feedback loops on everybody's ideas, and also just sharing ideas amongst and between the parties on our team, which is really refreshing. What's happened in as far as the small business lending strategy, what's happened in the time since we formed, 10 days ago, we have the biggest SBA program in history, a $2 trillion program. So our initiative in this first week, as Sarah will tell you more in a little bit, our initiative has been making sure that everybody's aware of the program, and specifically the part of the program that's hitting most businesses is the payroll protection program, or paycheck protection program, that is allowing some relief on payroll so employers can keep their teams together. So getting that message, and it's been ever-changing from the SBA and the federal government. Every day it changes a little bit, but it finally went live this past weekend. And really, again, seeing all the chambers work together and Startup Waco and City Waco has been just so much fun as we talk and share ideas on getting this information out to the public. Also want to thank the local banking community because they're integral in getting these programs on the street. There's other programs, and Sarah is going to talk about those a bit more in our program. And then just keeping everybody abreast of the state and federal relief programs as they come out. That's part of our goal here. Next slide. There we go. This is the team that we put together. Again, this is the initial kind of triage, particularly as we've gotten kind of snowed under with the SBA program. And again, the cooperation and the capacity that these guys have is incredible. And just going around with the logos here, John Bible at Centex African American Chamber, Alfred Solano at Centex Hispanic Chamber, Matt Meadows and Chris Collins at Greater Waco Chamber, John Passavant at Startup Waco, and Millette Harrison at the City of Waco. You see 5 logos on this page, but the exponential reach that we're getting from each of these is tremendous. The memberships of each one of these chambers, and again, as we share ideas internally and externally, we like to think that we're getting the word out on these programs, and they will get better as we have time to coalesce. again, I'm going to hand off the more meat of the program over to Sarah. And again, Dylan did a great introduction of her. She's with KSR Advantage Consulting, head of Waco Business League, and got a lot of energy and commitment to this thing. We've had a lot of calls with industry leaders over the last week, and she is tremendous and a great benefit to the city. And with that, Sarah, I'm going to hand off the rest of the presentation to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holmes. You can turn to the next slide. So, hearing from industry has really been an important part of the work of this team. And as we all know, one of the strengths of Waco's economy is how diverse it is and that no one sector really dominates. But that also means that there are a lot of different impacts across this marketplace. And this team has been fantastic at really diving in and focusing on different parts of the economy to make sure that there is a broad coverage of the business sectors in our marketplace. So the Starbridge partnership is the Syntex Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as well as the Syntex African American Chamber of Commerce. They combined forces and really focused in on the service industries and food and beverage. Put out a survey very early on to really hear from the businesses as to what their pain points were and what kind of solutions they were seeking. Not surprising, the vast majority of the respondents were small businesses, less than 10 employees, and the vast concerns were the significant drop in their customers as well as their financial concern. The positive news was the window of opportunity wasn't that in the next 30 days it was going to be a crisis, but that they really needed resolutions and solutions stood up within the 60 to 90-day mark to be able to stay afloat. The partnership of Syntex Hispanic and Syntex African American Chambers have dug in and really tried to build programming around that driving customer base to these businesses, and also doing a tremendous amount of triage calls to make sure that as all of the marketing and information is coming out about the programs, that businesses are in fact applying for the relief programs. I'll give you a little bit more feedback as we wrap up about some of the needs that they're hearing locally. And then also the second phase of surveying is really going to connect these businesses to a broader survey that's being done nationally and statewide to really track what businesses are needing and whether the relief programs that came through the CARES Act are actually working. The Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce has had standing industry calls across specific sectors. Each week they're continuing to do that for as long as industry is participating and needing it. They've covered industries from the area industry managers, which are mainly large industrial and logistics firms, major employers in the marketplace, the Association of General Contractors, Auto Dealerships, the Architecture Builders Association, Hotel Association, Realtors Association, Restaurant Association, and they're continuing to do additional ones as needs arise. You probably all have seen that the Greater Waco Chamber starting March 16th really led out as a resource page for businesses through the Waco Supporting Waco site. That has been updated continually, and then additional outbound communications through newsletters and social media have been shared, really providing links to everything from the local orders to the state resources, legal policies around extended child care and FMLA, as well as all of the relief programs coming through the SBA. And that's also been connected. We'll talk a little bit more about how that's been connected to the network of local chambers as well. Startup Waco took the initiative to really create a place for self-employed and gig workers to have resources. So they reprogrammed their entire website to be a resource for people who are self-employed, to be a resource for people who are really the 1099 part of the marketplace. Frankly, a lot of the impacted businesses fall in that space. And they've also brought online a master's in public health to be a resource for employers, specifically small employers who probably don't have people in-house to help them operationalize the new recommendations about how to have safe public health practices to help consumers feel comfortable about still shopping with them, and to help them prevent future impacts from the COVID pandemic. The working team has also coordinated with the Creative Waco team, who has launched a virtual marketplace called makeitinwaco.com This is a great resource. I'm sure all of us have been at home at some point and wanted to buy something and went to Amazon and felt really guilty because we couldn't figure out how to find the local business that had that same product. And this is a way for local businesses and creatives and artists to be able to put their services and or products online, gift cards, anything you can imagine. They even have some of our nonprofits in the cultural sector where they're pre-selling, future seasons of things and virtual events. So it's a great initiative. This working team is trying to find businesses and make sure local businesses know about this tool and start programming their business on that platform. Esmeralda, we can go to the next slide. And then the outreach to date, really the content of what messaging has gone out has been prioritized around the financial resources, partly because it is so critical to keep these businesses afloat so there's capacity for recovery, and secondarily because the deadlines were really fast approaching and the information was changing a lot. So there's been a very coordinated outreach from all of the chambers and Start of Waco to reach as many of the businesses in Waco on the SBA program. Major push came for the April 3rd, which was the initial application date that banks started receiving the Paycheck Protection Program, and then continuing to push through the April 10th application, which is for the self-employed workforce that can begin. There was a tremendous amount of communication distributing step-by-step trainings that SBDC locally was producing. Literally, you can see on the bottom link, the 10-hole camp with SBDC was literally walking businesses page by page through the application to show them how to do this, making sure that they knew that if they don't have some of the documentation, that it's okay. Get these applications in place now, and we'll walk you through creating that additional content. There was significant marketing around the economic injury disaster loan or the EIDL program when last Monday they added a $10,000 advance, which is basically a grant. Part of the importance of making sure that message got out is to the marketplace was in response to the Starbridge survey, which showed a major concern from the small business and businesses of color about the idea of taking on more debt and economic uncertainty. And so making sure that the forgiveness provisions and the grant provisions were very clearly marketed and understood was an important thing to reaching the small business community. There was also a video conference for all of the McLennan County Chamber Alliance, which is 10 area chambers of commerce, including Syntax Hispanic and African American Chamber, to do a Q&A on April 3rd to help businesses go through the SBA program. And then there's been significant amount of information and marketing to outreach on the Texas Workforce Solution programs, which both are for the employer through the Texas Shared Work Program, which will supplement if folks are being reduced to anywhere between 10 and 40% reduction, then there's a partial unemployment that's drawn to really make up and make people's payroll whole, as well as the fact that a number of self-employed individuals who haven't historically benefited from unemployment can, in fact, receive that. So there's been a lot of marketing through the channels we've mentioned around those programs. Esmeralda, if you'll flip to the last slide. So moving forward, our team is still obviously promoting SBA. As of the numbers we've gotten to date, there's been 100,000 loans approved, $38 billion, but that's about 10% of the $395 billion that's out there. So there's still active marketing to make sure as many Waco businesses are taking advantage of these programs that all of us are federally supporting through our tax dollars. But we are also working as a group to make sure there's increased problem solving for the businesses trying to access Texas Shared Work. We've heard from a number of sectors that it's a program that actually would work for them, but they're having trouble actually being able to apply. The system has had so much overload. And so we are working with Jose Palacio at Texas Workforce Commission to figure out how to help employers navigate that and get that tool to really be performing it the way it's intended to. We're driving businesses to the online marketplaces. We already mentioned Make It in Waco. Another unique one is the Waco Restaurant Association has launched Waco Delivers, which is a way for local restaurants to be supported, but also it's an opportunity for us to support the community at the same time. Businesses can set up to send meals to hospitals or different frontline workers who are really serving all of us as a community right now, and it's making it a way for people to do that easily with our local restaurants. Startup Waco is launching virtual programs. The first one started today with Expert Live Hour, where Ahmad Gori was the SBA's Public Information Officer from North Texas. I did a program specifically in coordination with Syntax African American Chamber. They're also marketing the Make It in Waco initiative, doing an accountant program, and some coaching on public health in the workplace. They're also doing free, what they're calling expert hours for small businesses to be able to call in and get 15 minutes of advice from a local accountant, a local banker, a local lawyer, somebody that can really help them navigate this crisis with some additional professional support. Greater Waco Chamber is also taking their programs online. They have virtual power hours starting this week with Senator John Cornyn and the SBA, and also moving to helping educate businesses about how to be prepared for minimizing the likelihood of a COVID-19 impact in their local sites, and or helping them figure out how to give their employees guidance about how to monitor themselves and know whether they're safe to come into work or whether they need to self-quarantine at home. A lot of the moving forward of this working group is also making sure that businesses are really prepared to know how to operationalize different measures in their workforce so that the economy can keep moving forward. One of the things that came out just yesterday, wanted to share the update with Greater Waco Chamber has also created a website, an update on their wacotxjobs.com website that now has postings for all employers that are still hiring in the midst of the COVID crisis here locally. So job seekers have a single place they can go and look and know if you aren't quarantined at home and you are able to get out and be a part of the workforce, then here are the places that you can go look for work right now. Because just like there are parts of our economy that are still there making products and distributing products and serving other parts of the economy, they're still advancing. So the last two things really are focuses on local and state and federal policy. As we're moving forward, there are a number of pieces of feedback we're hearing from all of these different industry sectors about smaller local initiatives that could be impactful to supplement the work of the federal aid that's out there. And so we will be bringing that feedback through council member homes for you guys to consider in each of these specific industry sectors moving forward.
Okay, that is a fantastic report. Do you have anything to add, Councilmember Holmes?
Yeah, I'll just say, again, Sarah, having her as co-chair of this deal, we're lucky to get somebody that's organized and that's familiar with the community. I also want to say that I think across the board, we're lucky to have this level of leadership in the chamber. I'm not sure we've ever had this efficient and great leadership that we have in John Bible and Alfred Solano and Matt Nutters, and how and again the new kid on the block, John Passamon, Startup Waco too. And again, I'm sure we're going to hear this across the board here, but having these guys work together and the ideas that they're coming up with and working, spread the news as best we can in a very somber and gripping situation as Sarah and I reach out to industry leaders and just trying to figure out how to keep the lights on. So hopefully we're going to get to the end of the tunnel. We'll get on the other side soon, and our efforts here will be worthwhile. But thanks again, Mayor, for asking us to serve.
You bet. And Mayor, one thing to wrap this up is one thing that we have heard quite a bit about is a lot of businesses knowing the important question of not just when we start coming out of recovery, but how we start coming out of recovery. And both as a city and as the local working team working to support businesses, knowing that it might look differently and being really prepared in the communications of that is going to be a critical thing for our business community.
That's great, Sarah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, Dylan.
Do we have time for questions on this, Mayor, or
I think
do
we could
wanna
take
move
a
on to
few,
the next one?
we could take a few very specific questions, but if we take a lot of questions on each one, we won't get through the whole thing, all the reports. So
Sure, that's right. Any questions from anybody?
I think you're going to have to actually raise your hand because we had to turn off the deal on the side to be able to see all the council members while the presentations were being made. Okay, thank you.
The only question I had was, are the links that Sarah referenced going out on our website and social media to make sure that as people might be looking for some other information?
Hello.
Hey, Dylan. I think I know what you're asking. Yes, Millette Harrison is coordinating with Dory to make sure that all of those things are going on in COVID Waco. And we've also been coordinating with Councilmember Vito's team about, you see a lot of virtual programs starting now. There will be more to come, and getting a centralized calendar so that local businesses that are looking for resources can find the events all in one place, just like we used to do for seeing each other face to face. So there are lots of ways that we're trying to get that information all consolidated into one location.